Hi everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm Sam Fox, a mortgage expert here in the UK, and I try and break down the home buying process for you watching these videos to make sure you have a stress-free experience. Now, one of the topics I'm going to cover off today is, can you remortgage your house to buy another property? Now, in short, yes you can. Yes you can. There's a few things to go through which we will do in just a second. Now before I do, please do me a massive favor, hit subscribe, hit like, and if there's anything you need to ask along the way, drop them in the comments below. So first things first, we need to consider the use of the other property. So let's take a look at a second home or holiday home. You need to have a considerable budget in place to ensure you can afford the mortgage payments and associated costs of two properties. And remember, you're going to be responsible for maintaining all the payments, including things like your council tax, your water bill, your gas and electric. That sort of thing can be time consuming and it can be expensive, especially if you've bought a second home down on the southeast coast, for example, and you are absolutely miles away from it. So let's look at a buy-to-let. If you are considering purchasing a buy-to-let, then you're going to need a mortgage designed for that purpose. They typically require a larger deposit, in most cases 25%, and they usually come with higher interest rates as well. Now, owning a buy-to-let property involves managing tenants, ensuring property upkeep is adhered to, and making sure you've got all your landlord regulations in place and insurances and all that sort of stuff. So consider hiring a lettings agent to handle those aspects for a fee each month, meaning it's stress-free for you, it's a hands-off investment, and you pick up that rental each month. The other approach to two properties is the let to buy. Now, this approach involves renting out your current home, using that property typically to raise some extra capital to then purchase a new property for you to live in. That way you've got two separate mortgages. You've got kind of a buy-to-let mortgage, what's called let to buy, and then you're going to have a new residential one. You'll benefit from the long-term capital appreciation of the investment property, which was your old one, and you're going to have your new one. But don't forget all those memories you made in the old house. The tenants aren't bothered about that, so you can't come down hard on them if they don't cut the grass the way that you used to. That now is classed as an investment. The second main thing we need to look at is affordability. So releasing equity in your house to buy another property can potentially lead to higher mortgage repayments. Well, in fact, if you're raising money on it, undoubtedly it will cost you more money. So we need to make sure that the affordability checks are passed to ensure that your income can comfortably handle these increased costs as factored in remortgage fees. And remember, missing mortgage payments can result in you losing one or both properties in the long run. So affordability on a buy-to-let or a let-to-buy is going to be associated around the rental income and if that supports the mortgage loan that you're applying for, and the residential is going to be based on your personal incomes primarily to make sure that the stress tests are applied correctly and you can borrow the 300,000 or whatever it might be that you need. The third thing is employment status. So it can be challenging for self-employed people to remortgage for a second property. And we'd always say, speak to an advisor. And the reason being is that you'll hear myths about you need 3 years accounts, you need 2 years accounts, you can only use your net figures. Oh, you might be able to use your gross figures. Self-employed can cause a world of pain. So speak to a specialist, somebody who knows what they're talking about, so that the process from buying or remortgage or having the second property is just as easy the first time around that you did it. So let's take a look at how I would approach this. The first thing is assess my current financial situation. Let's find out how much equity you've got in the house and find the right mortgage. So if I borrow 50 grand on my house to purchase a second property, will the loan to value stick up? Many lenders won't let you raise above 95% loan to value on the best of times. So if you're capital raising even more to buy a second property, that might cause some complications. If you're buying it on the second home, like we mentioned, then there might be loan to value caps on the second residential. So can you raise enough on your residential to buy your second residential at 75% of the purchase price, raising a 25% deposit? If you can't, it might be that we're only limited to 1 or 2 lenders. So that can play a massive impact around it, which is why when we help people in these sorts of transactions, it's really important to be upfront with the objectives, and we'll help you break down all of the costs and how you fine tune that to raise money to purchase an onward property. Then once we've worked out those figures, we need to find the right mortgage depending on your situation, whether you're self-employed, adverse credit, the type of house you want to buy. As we said, whether it's a let to buy, buy to let, you're doing a remortgage, it's a second home, there's all those sorts of things to try and find the best product for you. Then we apply for the remortgage. Once it's completed, they're going to release the funds for you. Now, typically, let's take a look at the example of the let to buy. Lenders are going to want you to be out of that property because you're changing its use to be a rental. So we need to make sure the solicitors all around you are making sure that it's ready to complete on the remortgage. The money goes straight to the solicitor. You buy the new property, you get your keys, and you're out same day. So it can be quite stressful. And again, somebody like ourselves, a mortgage broker, will be here to help you navigate through that. So keep in mind, you might need a higher deposit. So expect to put down a larger deposit for a second home or a buy-to-let property as a rule of thumb. In terms of interest rates for second homes and buy-to-lets, make sure you're factoring in that it probably, maybe, high chances that it's going to be higher on the interest rates than a standard residential mortgage. And then you need to make sure that you're checking the eligibility as well. So some lenders will assess the ability to afford both properties, considering rental income if it's applicable, the running costs of both properties. If you've got loads of debt as well, that's also going to have a bit of an impact on your affordability and eligibility with lenders. And buying a second home can trigger additional tax obligations. So if you're going to buy a property to rent out, you've got the additional stamp duty to consider, and you may be paying tax on the gross rental income, or you may want to consider buying it in a limited company to reduce the tax burden, but then you've got accountancy fees, limited companies to set up, additional bank accounts. Look, what I'm trying to say is it can be quite complex, but going back to the original question, can I do it? Yes, you can. You just need to know the process, take your time, understand it all, and work with a professional. Right, I know I've covered a lot of information off there. So if you've got any comments about buying a second property or a buy-to-let property, drop them in the comments below. Or if you want me to take a look at your personal circumstances, my email is sam@ukmc.co.uk. That's it from me today. I'll see you soon.